Well, here we go. Just bought a small collection up in southern Montana. Got back with it 6 totes full of records. Take me a while to sort this, but I'll do a flip through. We'll take a look at it. Going through the tubs, getting them all sorted. Rough sort alphabetically. Well, here we are a few weeks later. Got a haircut, got all of these records sorted out. Unfortunately, I had to cull about 100 LPs and most of the 45s due to condition issues, but a lot of nice records in this lot. Let's take a look at what I found. Okay, well, these are in some kind of rough order. Wide Faith, Bowie, this is RCA repress from the 70s, really nice quality. Jim Carroll Band, delighted to find this. Cinderella. Alice Cooper, Flush the Fashion from 1980. Damn Yankees, 1990 release. Doors Greatest Hits, Live Doors, Brownsville Station, yeah. Real happy to find this. This will go in the collection. Eagles, John Entwistle of The Who. Several from Foghat. Foreigner with the die-cut sleeve. Rory Gallagher, Jerry Garcia Band, Grand Funk Railroad live. Guns N' Roses. Some Sammy Hagar, filled a few gaps in my Sammy Hagar collection with this. Head East, great album. Headpins, excellent Canadian hard rock band. This fills a gap in my collection. Heaven 17, another good one. Jimi Hendrix, plays Monterey. Iron Butterfly in shrink, I believe this is a reissue, nice shape. Iron Maiden, this is the first US pressing, near mint wax, great to find this. Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. Journey, really nice clean copy of this, will replace my existing. Couple by Crocus. This Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, is a UK first pressing. Cover's a little beat. Vinyl's pretty good. This record here, there must have been 2 copies of this in this collection. When we came to this, the seller looked at it, a signed copy, and said, hey, I might want to keep that. I saw these guys play in Iowa when I lived back there. So at any rate, I said, yeah, go ahead and keep the record. It's special, obviously. Anyway, I was going through the bins and I found a second copy of this. It's, I guess you'd call it 80s metal, and it's actually very good. Nils Lofgren. There were 2 copies of this in this collection. The other copy is still sealed. This copy is open, and I'll put this in the collection. Steve Marriott, Ian Matthews, Mott the Hoople, Vinnie Moore. Here's some more Bowie. Nice clean copies. Jam, US press, first release. Couple Nazareth. Nelson. Night Ranger. Bunch of Ted Nugent. Fill in a few gaps in my collection. Ozzy. Sold one of the Ozzy records. Actually sold probably about 10, 12 of these records. Had a friend come over. He wanted to look through them before I put records on Discogs for sale, and he picked out a bunch. Ozzy and some Cult, Blue Oyster Cult, Led Zepp, Def Leppard, some other stuff. Jimmy Page. Pearl Jam. These 2 Pearl Jam records are original pressings from the early 90s. Might let them go. I've never been a fan. Joe Perry, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, great classic rock here. Pink Floyd, covers aren't the best. Vinyl's nice. These will go in my collection. Queensryche, fill in a gap in my collection. Rainbow on Stage. Rat Detonator, 1990 release. Lou Reed, Blue Mask, delighted to find this. I bought it on cassette when released. Been looking for a vinyl copy for decades. Finally found it. Near mint wax. Roaches, Rush, this is the only Rush album in the lot. Sad Cafe. Doug Somm, nice upgrade. This is a beautiful copy. Savoy Brown, a couple copies. Stone Fury. Styx, fills a hole in my Styx collection. 10 years after. Thin Lizzy, here's one that I did not have. Chinatown, Thin Lizzy. So, some of these are very nice. And Shrink, Near Mint Wax. Triumph. Robin Trower, fill a bunch of holes in my Robin Trower collection here. UK Live, never bought this when it was released back in the day. I have the other albums. Delighted to find this one. I've seen it used before, but not in this nice condition. Uriah Heep. And Velvet Underground, looks like a reissue compilation of oddball stuff. Bunch of Joe Walsh in this collection. Nice condition vinyl, real nice. You see some of the covers aren't real good, but vinyl on all of these. These were weeded out. These are selected for good vinyl. Warrant, late 80s pressing. Wasp, that's their first LP. I did not have this, so delighted to add it to my collection. Dottie West, there's something a little different. They're not all thumpers and boners in this collection. Whitford St. Holmes, Wishbone Ash, a couple Y&T, Neil Young, Warren Zevon, ZZ Top. These are compilations. I guess you'd call it hard rock, metal. Yep. What we just saw were generally things that are going in my collection. Next round of flip throughs are records that I will likely be selling on Discogs. Still need to look for condition, but these are likely suspects to sell on my Discog store. AC/DC, of course, Atomic Rooster, Beatles, only a few Beatles in this lot. Blackfoot, got these in my collection already. They're going to be sold. Black Sabbath, again, covers are not so hot, but generally the wax on these is pretty clean. Blues Brothers, Tommy Bolin, Bon Jovi, there's a nice clean copy. David Bowie, more Bowie. Okay, some Clapton albums. The Clash, nice clean wax on this one. Climax Blues Bands, there's actually two copies of this. Patsy Cline, another copy of Flush the Fashion. Alice Cooper Greatest Hits, CCR, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Check this out, 1, 2, 3 copies of The Cult, Sonic Temple. VG Plus to Near Mint. Already got a Near Mint copy in my collection. The Purple cover beat, vinyl nice. Def Leppard, 2 copies. Pyromania, oh, 3 copies. Listen to this one, Greg's Diamond, did not care for it. Try to sell it. Dio, Dire Straits, Doors, more Doors. Reissue, I think. Yeah, reissue. Doors. Bob Dylan Greatest Hits, 2 copies. No Milton Glaser poster. Eagles, ELO, Europe, couple Fastway. Very common record, Fleetwood Mac. More Fleetwood Mac. This one looks nice. Live, Mystery to Me, earlier Fleetwood Mac. Foghat, more Foghat. Some of these are dupes. There's a lot of duplicates in this collection. Foreigner. Looks like a nice copy. Foreigner again. This is a club issue. It does not have the cutout, die-cut cover. Heart. Frampton, 2 copies. A lot of these are very common. Craig Fuller, Eric Has. Rory Gallagher, nice clean copy. Jay Giles, look at that. 3 copies, freeze frame. Probably going to have a yard sale and put out a $1 box and sell some of this stuff. It's just not worth listing on Discogs. Gufra, Golden Earring, Grand Funk, Grand Funk, missing the glasses, looks like. Grateful Dead, Great White, Grim Reaper. Sammy Hagar, saw that earlier. Those were ones I'm keeping for my collection, but there were duplicate copies. So a lot of Sammy Hagar. 2 copies of this one. Daryl Hall, John Oates, George Harrison, Best Dark Horse. Listen to this great album. Not my thing. Might put that on Discogs. More Heart, Little Queen, Bad Animals. Another copy of Heaven. This is a great album, by the way. Jimi Hendrix, Don Henley, HILLAGE, Canadian hard rock band, great. Steve HILLAGE, Motivation Radio. This guy is excellent guitarist. Played with Gong, and his solo LPs are great. Hot Tuna, Humble Pie. Takes me right back to high school days. I bought this when I was a kid delivering newspapers. Great record. Couple Billy Idol, INXS. Iron Butterfly, listen to this, not so hot, not as good as the early stuff. Iron City House Rockers, have both of these in my collection. Pittsburgh band. Blows Against the Empire, and Jefferson Starship, maybe. Bursting Out, Stormwatch, Joan Jett, couple Judas Priest, Kick-Axe, The Kinks, some Kiss, 2 copies of Lick It Up, Crocus, great album, another great one from Crocus, Led Zeppelin, a bunch of Led Zeppelin, trashed cover. I think the vinyl's okay. That's probably why I put it in here. Or Led Zepp. Labor of Lust, Nick Lowe, good one. Already have it in my collection. Here's that still sealed Nils Lofgren record I told you about. Surely be able to sell that on Discogs. Mahavishnu Orchestra Live, great record. There's another Led Zepp. Meatloaf. I never did care for this. I did buy it brand new and got rid of it years ago. John Cougar and Mellencamp. Got a few of those. Steve Miller Band, duplicate copies. You see there's a lot of duplicate copies in here. Some nice, some not so nice. Eddie Money. Some of the beat up stuff I'll just put in a box and have a yard sale, $1 a piece. I'm sure they'll go. Nazareth. A lot of great records here. Great Boners, Thumpers, and DCH. Nazareth, Stevie Nicks. Night Ranger. Ooh, this is still sealed. Look at that. It's coming off there, but it's sealed. Aldo Nova, this guy is great. I've got all 3 of these records though, nicer condition. Okay, more Uncle Ted, a lot of Nugent in this collection, multiple copies. Whew! I have a near mint copy of this in my collection, near mint cover and wax. Sinead O'Connor, Ozzy. Sold one of the Ozzy records to my friend who was over. Alan Parsons Project, Point Blank, great southern rock here. Queen, couple copies of Queen live, Killers. News of the World, couple Quiet Riot, 2 copies of the same one. Another copy of Joe Perry, he was the vocalist with Aerosmith. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Got 2 copies of Hard Promises. Southern Accents, Let Me Up. 2 copies of Full Moon Fever. Here's Pink Floyd, The Wall. We all recognize that. 2, 3 copies. Wish You Were Here. Animals. Dark Side of the Moon. Rough Ringwear. Metal. Momentary Lapse of Reason. 2 copies. 3 copies. There we go. Police, Synchronicity. Pretenders, 2 copies of their debut. Pretenders, 2 copies of Purple Rain, Prince. 2 copies of Rat Invasion, Out of the Cellar. Self-titled, Rock and Roll Animal, great record. Another Lou Reed, Street Hassle, REO. Rolling Stones, Rush. I stand corrected. There are more than 1 Rush albums in here. Yes, there. What a Crying Shame. I probably pulled out about 100 records that had water damage or had been left out of their sleeves, scratched up. Vinyl on these is great. It's a shame about the covers. Billy Squier. No surprise finding Bruce Springsteen in this collection. Multiple copies. Steely Dan. Steppenwolf. Stray Cats. Styx. I believe this is, let's take a look. Yep, can you see that? It's laser etched. Cool, huh? Styx, Supertramp, a couple copies, 3 copies of this. Survivor, Thin Lizzy, Thorogood. There's some traffic on the road. Pat Travers, U2, several U2 records. UFO, No Place to Run, Van Halen, Wasp, Whitesnake, 2 copies of Slide It In, Hooligans by The Who. This is a reissue. Look at that label, and it does not have any of the inserts. Who Are You? 2 copies. Looks like a compilation. I think this is, I don't know, U.S. Press maybe. Wishbone Ash. Neil Young. There's a bunch of Neil Young in here. A couple more Y&T. I have these in my collection. Zappa. I have both of these in my collection. Bought them new way back when. Warren Zevon. Southern Fried Rock. K-Tel. And Concerts for the People of Kampuchea. So that's a look at some of the albums that I'm either putting in my collection or moving on to sell on Discogs store or cheap box of $1 records at a yard sale. This collection had obviously been picked over, and talking to the seller, I asked him about that. He told me that the records had been in the basement of his father's house for about 20-30 years, and meanwhile he was 1,000 miles away out west and did not have access to them. And he was under the impression that there were at least twice as many records as what he brought back to Montana when I looked at them. So I asked him, is it possible that somebody got into these records? And I asked that because a lot of these records were just pulled out of the sleeves and just tossed aside and covered with dust and scratches and just totally trashed. And there were artists in there that I did not see that I would have expected, such as Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, and so on. None of that. So it looks like about half of his collection had been robbed, or something happened to it. And he also told me that in the 90s he had friends who had record collections that he bought because they were getting into CDs. And that's the reason there's multiple copies of Fleetwood Mac, The Cult, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, that sort of thing. He just acquired other small collections and lumped it all together. There were about 345's, and sadly most of them were not in sleeves. Most of them were scratched up and very common, and I put those in a box of culls. And I did pick out some nice garage rock and some soul and some other interesting stuff, and we'll take a quick look at that. Okay, here's a few of the select 45's. Psychotic Reaction by the Count 5, garage rock classic. The Balloon Farm, Question of Temperature. The House Rockers featuring Chuck Singleton, Peace of Mind. This is a soul record, and the House Rockers are an Iowa garage band backing some soul singers. The flip side is the Meditations on vocals, and this is relatively rare, sought-after record. Sir Douglas Quintet, She's About a Mover, big hit in the 60s. Sir Douglas Quintet again, Dynamite Woman. Talk Talk Music Machine, that was a big hit in the day. Party Doll, The Hullabaloo's. Mr. Gasser and the Weirdos, Doing the Surf Inc. novelty. Five-man electrical band, Signs, that was an AM hit. J.J. Jackson, It's All Right, funk soul. Shadows of Night, Gonna Make You Mine. Here's another Shadows of Night, Shake. And Gloria, they're probably best known for that tune. The Premiers, Farmer John. Dave D, Dozy and Beaky, Mickey and Titch, Hold Tight. Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, doing Wooly Bully, great tune. Jamie, Ginger Snap. The Coachman, Mr. Moon. Spirit of St. Louis, Going Back to Miami. It's kind of an obscure one there. The Seeds, A Thousand Shadows. Round Robin, Kick That Little Foot, Sally Ann. And Burn Elliott and the Fenmen, Everybody Needs a Little Love, and New Orleans. Well, thanks for joining me for this quick video showing some of my recent finds. A lot of common stuff, nothing terribly rare, but I did find a lot of records I'd been looking for many years. Stuff that I will enjoy listening to and putting into my collection. Be sure to check out my other videos right here on YouTube, Cactus Cowboy channel. Thank you.